We're just going to start in a minute, everyone. So if you could just find a seat and get comfortable, we'll just kick off soon. Okay, everyone, we might make a start. I really appreciate the confidence of the front tables here, so thank you for that. Not so happy about everyone spreading themselves at the back, but if you get more confident as the night goes on, you can shuffle forward. My name's David Hale. Most people call me Dave. I just want to thank you all for coming along tonight. It's a cold Monday night on a long weekend, so a lot of excuses not to be here, but I really appreciate everyone making the effort. We've also, just while I'm sort of starting off, you'll notice, hard to miss, there's a camera. We are also live streaming this for those that can't be here in the room. So we've got that all set up, but just be aware there's a camera, it's being recorded. I hope if you're not comfortable with that, don't jump up and dance in front of it. But if you do have a question through the night, just be aware that, yeah, it's being recorded. Before we go any further, just a few acknowledgements. So first of all, just to acknowledge that we're meeting on Jarrah country. And I pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and acknowledge any elders that may be with us tonight. Also want to acknowledge everyone that was affected by the fires on the 9th of January, which is almost everyone in this room in one way or another, but particularly to acknowledge those that were most impacted by those fires. I know some of you are here tonight. Many of you aren't here, or many of them aren't here tonight. But yeah, as the months go on, it gets easier and easier for other people to forget how much devastation was caused. So yeah, just to acknowledge that, and yeah, there's still a lot of emotions and a lot that everyone's working through. Also want to acknowledge all of the fireys, the paramedics, the police officers and the volunteers who have been working on and off since January in different capacities. It's been exhausting for everyone in different ways, but yeah, there's been a lot of people that have been going above and beyond in our community, so appreciate all of those efforts. Like I said, my name's Dave. I'll be facilitating tonight, so I'm not associated with the HPA. I'm not a member of the thinking group, as they're called, who you'll be hearing from later. My role is just to keep things ticking along, keep watching my clock to try and make sure you get home at a reasonable hour, and to also make sure that as many of you as possible have the space to ask the questions that you want to ask tonight. So just for 30-second background, so I lived in Symes Road in Harcourt for nearly 10 years. I was wedged between Andrew and Neil and Rona. I'm in Barker's Creek now, so a close neighbour, but not directly in Harcourt for the last couple of years. The purpose of tonight. Some of you have been coming to these meetings. This is the third community meeting talking about recovery efforts. Some of you have been to each one of those. For some of you, this may be your first. There's been a lot of discussions over the last couple of months. Hi, Bron and Terry. There's been a lot of discussions about exactly how this community can have a voice in the decisions that are going to be made over the next couple of years. There are going to be some decisions. There is a state election coming up. There will be money available, undoubtedly. And how community organises itself to make sure it's got a say on what happens in this community and the surrounding communities is a matter for the community itself. So for this meeting, you're going to hear some of the work that's been going on about what that can look like. And at the end of the night, I'm going to ask you whether or not you are happy to support the idea that is going to be put forward to you, and whether you're happy to support the ongoing work of having a community voice in the recovery decisions over the next few years. And if no one puts their hands up and no one thinks it's a good idea, then that's okay. All of the bits of paper can be recycled, and I'm sure there's lots of volunteers that will happily go back to their lives. But hopefully you do have the confidence and belief that this is something important, and we do get a good show of support at the end of tonight. So just keep that in mind, that is going to be the question at the end of the night. Are you happy to support what's being put forward or not? For the agenda, there's going to be a bit of background, so not everyone's been part of these conversations. So we'll try and catch you up to speed with what's happened over the last couple of months. There'll be a short presentation from Steve Pascoe, who's helped out different communities in setting up recovery groups like what's been talked about. So he presented at the last community meeting, but he'll give you a bit of a feel for some of those experiences as well. Then there'll be a presentation of the proposal itself, and that will be from the thinking group that I mentioned earlier. So they are volunteers who came out of the last community meeting, and they were asked to put together a concept, an idea of what the group is going to look like. So that's the proposal that you'll hear from. While I'm talking about them, I might just get the thinking group members to stand up and give a wave to everyone else. Oh. They were worried they were going to have things thrown at them, so a round of applause is much nicer. They have given up their time, and they have been doing a lot of hard work to try and move this forward, because it would have been great several months ago. Everyone's doing the best they can, and they've been a fantastic group. So I've been hearing some updates, and you've been very well represented. So they'll put forward their proposal, and then we'll have some time where you can digest everything that you've heard. You can have a chat among your tables. Those members, many of whom I'm sure you know, they will roam around. You can ask them some questions as well. We'll come back together as a group, and if you've got any questions, if you've got any uncertainties, if you need anything clarified, we'll have as many questions as you want to make sure everyone's feeling as comfortable and confident as they can about what's being put forward. And hopefully, I'm on track. The first 10 minutes are so far so good. Hopefully at the end of that, it'll be about 8:30, and everyone will be as happy as we can make them. We also have council represented here tonight. So Michelle, hi Michelle. Is there anyone else from council? Ray? Raya. Freya. Freya's here. And separately but connected, we have Tony Cordy as well. Councillor Tony is here. They'll all stick around after this meeting, so if you do have more questions that are specific for council, they will be available. We also have HPA represented here tonight. Maybe HPA members, do you want to stand up? And there we are. So there'll be HPA members. I don't expect you all to stick around, but I'm sure there'll be a couple of HPA members at least that stick around as well. And if you've got any questions for HPA specifically, they'll be available to have those conversations. So I'll fly through that. Yeah, just in terms of how we're organising things, like I said, there'll be time for questions. You can have a chat amongst yourselves. I don't want to rush you, but I guess all I ask is that we're respectful of each other's time as well. So, you know, everyone's been through an incredibly difficult few months. There are a lot of questions about a lot of different things still in the air. So we'll try and work through those as best we can. For tonight, we'll try and keep the focus as much as possible on what's going to be proposed. But like I said, we do have those representatives available for questions about other issues as well. So, yeah, we'll do the best we can and we'll have a conversation together. Okay, so with all of that, have I missed anything? No. Okay, I'm going to hand over to Heidi. Heidi's been involved with the relief and recovery efforts as a huge support she's been doing everything really. She was in a capacity with the HPA. She's been helping out the thinking group, and she's just been a godsend for everyone. So Heidi's going to give you a bit of a recap of the past conversations, and then I'll pass on to Steve to talk about other communities. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Dave. I'd also like to give my respects to Jara, the traditional owners of the lands on which we're meeting here today, and give my respect to any elders and First Nations people joining us today. So, as Dave said, I was supporting for a few months with HPA on the recovery and supporting the relief team's transition to longer-term recovery, and have just continued to support the amazing thinking group, just so there's some consistency in the work that was done before and ensuring that they had access to the overall picture. I've been connecting in with council and lots of different agencies, so ensuring they could easily connect in with that as they were doing their thinking. So 5 months now since the fires, and a lot of incredible work and effort around the immediate response, and also the relief that has really come from community, from all of you. It's really been quite incredible to be able to be part of that and witness the generosity of everyone that supported each other. But what's really important is to ensure that the community can move to more sustainable, longer-term support and arrangements. So I think it was early March, we had a first community meeting to really focus on how the community wanted to move forward into the longer-term recovery, knowing that recovery can take years. And we had the great guidance from Emergency Recovery Victoria, Lou Mitchell, who is also here if you have any questions. So Lou's up the back there. And also some guidance from some of the psychologists and other experts who had had a lot of experience and advice for us from other bushfires that they had supported. So early March, we had the first meeting, and led Vita, who facilitated that, and we heard from community. What was really standing out at the time was the community support and spirit. But we also heard the challenges around mental health challenges, as well as the complexity of this space and how difficult it was to understand all the pieces of the puzzle. And some of those things that was making it really difficult as well, we heard from community the fatigue and the exhaustion that volunteers and community were experiencing, as well as the lack of clarity around some of the supports from council and ERV around cleanup and other areas. In that community meeting, we also workshopped some different ideas of what could longer-term recovery for this community look like. One of those options was to consider auspicing or setting something up under an existing organisation in Harcourt and the surrounds, and Harcourt Progress Association was also identified as one of those potential organisations that it might stand up from. During the following meetings and some online poll and engagement, we heard that there was a strong preference to go to the, one of the other alternatives or options to start a new committee. And I'd just like to reiterate, we've got fantastic support from HPA here and Mount Alexander Shire Council, but I'd just like to be really clear that this work is completely independent of them. Completely independent, and it has been set up to run independently. So whatever's presented tonight does not have any connection to any other organisation or any other sort of community group in the area. And so a lot of the thinking group members will have connections across into different groups, but this work tonight that we're presenting is completely independent. And so, yeah, of the preferences, there was also the preference around having council, not the preference, the option of having council to lead some of the work, and that option has been underway, and council now leading a multi-agency community recovery group where all of the different agencies in the that have been working since the bushfires, as well as continue to come together and work through what they need to be focused on to support your and our community. And so that work is already happening, and it's really important that this work will be working closely with the council and all the other agencies that are working in the space. So that's a bit of how we got to here, as well as with the thinking group. So we also had the great advice and guidance from Steve Pascoe, who you will hear from shortly. So Steve is under the Red Cross Disaster Recovery Mentor Program and has been guiding from his experience in Strathewen and Malakuta, and he'll talk to that a bit more. And so when the last meeting in April, we put to the community the idea of setting up this thinking group to come up with an idea or a concept around what a new association could look like. We put a call out for members to come onto the thinking group, and we had an incredible level of interest and really incredible level of skills and capabilities and really committed people to your community. We ended up selecting 7 members, and that was with the look at to try and have a diversity of skills and experience, have a diversity of people connected into different parts of the community, also thinking about gender balance, and then also making sure we had someone represented from one of the surrounding areas around Harcourt who were also impacted, and then also making sure we had someone who had lost significantly in the bushfires to be represented. So we were able to get quite a diverse representation on the group. And they were invited to come together and do some thinking, hence the name. And they've met 7 times, and they're all volunteers, and they meet all after hours outside of their busy day lives. And we've come to this point now, so they will will be presenting their thinking to you. And so we're at this sort of fork in the road, I guess. And so tonight, depending on what we hear from all of you, we may go forward with the proposal that the thinking group put forward and have a new association to lead the long-term community recovery for Harcourt and surrounds and district. Alternatively, if it's not supported, the options are going to be either allowing council and the multi-agency group to decide on your behalf what is important for you for recovery, and also try and coordinate and connect across many different community groups that might not be coordinated as yet in the community. And so it's really important to understand the alternatives. There might be other alternatives, we haven't explored those. But yeah, I really encourage you to listen and have a think about what's next after you've heard from the thinking group. But before you do, we're going to hear from Steve Pascoe, who will share a little bit about his experience of setting up new associations in recovery from bushfires as well. And I think Steve's going to hopefully tell you more about his background than I have. So thanks. Yeah.
Thanks. Hi folks, what a turnout, what a great thing. As I can read without that, yay. As everyone said, my name's Steve Pascoe. I'm a volunteer disaster recovery mentor. Disaster Recovery Mentors is a group of people who've had personal and professional experience in disasters, often impacted themselves, who have decided that folks such as yourself shouldn't have to go through this and figure it all out again. So that we provide our knowledge and our advice so that you don't have to make the mistakes that we did, and it also normalises what your experience. So we've been there, we know what it's like, and we can assist people like yourselves. So I've been working with the community leaders in Harcourt to come up with some solutions to where to from here. So I've got over 30 years experience in emergency management and have a passion for community-led preparedness and recovery. I apologise for reading this because I can talk for many, many hours on this stuff, so I've got to keep it tight, so I've written it down. In 2009, my own community of Strathewen and my own property was devastated by the Black Saturday bushfires. I was one of a small group of people who initiated the Strathewen Community Recovery Association, and I was Deputy Chair of the association for 2 years. In 2020, I was flown into Mallacoota to assist them develop their own community-led recovery approach. At the moment, as a result of the fires earlier this year, I'm also working with Ruffy, Highlands and Yark, which were involved in the Longwood fires. So why is community-led recovery important? It's important because it gives you the opportunity and the power to identify and address the impacts of the bushfire on your community. Every community is different, the impacts are always different, the way you can respond is different, the resources and the skills you have in your community are different, so it has to be community-led. Forming a community association means that you can all be members of the association and you can all have a say in how the recovery of your community happens. As members, you will be able to decide who will be on the committee that represent you, or whatever the structure ends up being. If the association goes ahead and incorporates, it provides the ability to open bank accounts, apply for grants and manage donations. It also provides legal protections to members of the association and the committee. The concept of an incorporated community recovery association is strongly supported by council and state government agencies. Back in 2000, 2009, Strathewen was kind of the first community to actually develop a community recovery association. I've worked pretty passionately since then to promote community-led recovery and disaster preparedness. And for the first 10 years of that, I was kind of pushing stuff uphill with a sharp stick. Not getting very far, it was very heavily resisted. In the last 5 years, I think probably since the Black Summer fires, it's become a thing. And now community-led disaster recovery is well supported by councils and by state government, which is kind of amazing. So through that time, I've seen a number of communities whose recovery process has been led by different approaches. So sort of the community-led with an association with an elected committee or some alternative to that works very well. The things that don't work is when self-appointed, self-interested people take over and represent themselves and pretty much ignore what community needs. So if you don't get it right, that can lead to pretty poor outcomes for the community. I strongly encourage you to consider what is being presented tonight and be part of the bushfire recovery of your community. I'll be around for a while, so if you want to have a chat about anything, come up and talk to me. I'll come and talk to you and encourage you to be part of this. So thank you very much. There you go.
Thanks, Steve. I'm mindful that you're getting spoken to a lot at the moment, and I apologise for that. There will be time as we move through this evening for a sit-down and a proper discussion. You're hearing a lot of information. I hope it's being absorbed. If you need to get up and stretch, there are some more sausages down the side there, and big thanks to the Lions Club for coming along and feeding us. But you are going to get some more information now. So if you need to wriggle around, do what you need. But we're getting to the crux of what we're about this evening. We've got Rebecca and Donna from the Thinking Group, and they're going to give you the concept. They're going to tell you what this is about exactly, as exactly as they've got it. And then we'll pause and we're going to have a chat. So stay with us. Appreciate everyone's being very patient. But I'll hand over to Rebecca and to Donna. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Phil. Thanks, Heidi. Well, for most of you, it's really hard for me to actually see you. You're a bit blurred. There's going to be no singing and dancing tonight, that's for sure. Really? Oh my gosh. I really hate the public speaking thing. You know that I could all talk the leg off a chair, but getting up here in front of you all, it's giving me the heebie-jeebies. So community recovery needs to be led by us, the community. So that's, basically what we're here for. We all want to see that happen. So for those that don't know me, my name's Donna McMahon. I'm sixth generation Harcourtian and proud of it. And we've got other members of the community here. So I've got Rebecca Edwards. Beck, do you want to say anything? Come on in.
So for people who don't know me, we have the property on Reservoir Road that has a zebra. Hopefully a lot of you have seen that and it's given you a laugh. And yeah, I've lived here for 20 years now, but I also was connected to the community as a child because I lived in Barkers Creek and went to the Harcourt Kinder and the Harcourt Brownies when that used to exist. And although the two of us are speaking on behalf of the Thinking Group, the other 5 members are here. The one up there, and I think the others are around there. So spread around. And, we're a really diverse group, but we're speaking together with one voice tonight, absolutely. And, we've all put a lot of time and effort into this.
A big part about coming on why I put my hand up for coming onto the thinking group was to lead our recovery, to make it a community-led recovery. Instead of having other government agencies acting on our behalf, not really knowing what our community needs, it was really important that we have a voice for that recovery process. I worked primarily in the Donation Distribution Centre in Castlemaine. Initially up at VMR, I think I was one of the first with Remy and Bonnie doing the food up there, and I recognised lots of faces for people that came up and helped in that recovery. Beck?
Yeah, so there's heaps going on in the recovery, and it's really easy to be critical, I think. And so one of the reasons that I joined the thinking group was because I didn't want to be one of the whingers. I wanted to say, well, at least I've tried to do something for my community, and I'm very, very respectful of the work that HPA have done in a situation none of them imagined that they'd be in, and just all volunteers. So, really, this is about trying to grab that community spirit and to lead us and lead the recovery where we go from here.
So at this stage we've got about 30 agencies acting on Harcourt's behalf. We've got local council, we've got government recovery agencies, we've got the Emergency Recovery Victoria, who we've got representatives here tonight, we've got the CFA, we've got DECA, and some organisations that many of us wouldn't even know what the acronym stands for, but they're all here and they're in our community making decisions on our behalf.
So, we think that other people shouldn't be making decisions on our behalf. We think that we, all of us together, and all the people who haven't managed to come tonight too, should be making the decisions about what it is that Harcourt needs. And I really want to stress too that the 7 of us in the thinking group, we don't necessarily want to be the people on the committee going forward. We're just trying to help establish it so that the community as a whole has a group and can then elect people to lead the community forward from there. So we want us, all of us, to make decisions about our future, and we really also want to try and coordinate the approach a little bit more, because like Donna said, there's so much going on and there's so many little subgroups and subcommittees, and they don't all seem to be talking to each other. So if we have an endorsed committee, that will help mean that messages are sort of flowing through in one place, we hope.
Yeah, and it's just a broader representation. Like, we've all got our own committees. Like, I'm seeing the bowling club here, I'm seeing the HBA, I'm seeing the Lions Club, footy club, cricket club. But we've got, even in this facility here, we've got multiple users that utilise this facility. We all need to just get together and let the bodies know what it is that will make this place better. And I know that there was the parliamentary inquiry, and Rachel Vanstone addressed that with, what we need in this facility in particular to make it better. We're not talking about, we're probably fortunate that lots of our infrastructure wasn't taken out, but, it's an opportunity for us to actually improve on what we have got here. I've probably skipped I've probably confused Beck.
That's okay.
Are we good? Yeah.
So we know that there is money out there, not like billions of dollars, unfortunately, but there is some money out there that some organisations are waiting to know if the Harcourt and district community is going to set up a group to help channel some of that money. So the group won't necessarily receive the funds, but it might help direct where the funds go. We're
also not here to push the borough for for, like, we're not going to take over any of the organisations. We actually need you all to come on board and to have representation on this working group. So we were the thinking group, setting up the association or putting it towards to you to consider whether or not this was the way forward. But now we actually need a working group that's going to get behind this proposal that believes in sort of a future for Harcourt.
Yeah, and it's really important that the new group is transparent all the way through with how it's making decisions, what it's actually doing, and also participatory. So we want to involve as many parts of the community as possible. It might be through existing community groups, it might be by having more community meetings. That's going to need to be thought about by the new committee, but really important to involve as many people as possible.
Yeah, so collectively and collaboratively, like that's the way forward. It's not operating as your single group, because you've only got then the power of that one organisational group to have that voice, when you could actually be working together as a collective and working towards the one goal, and that's making Harcourt better. We're stronger together and we're louder together, and I'm pretty loud, so I'm going to go that way. All right, the proposal. So you've all got down on your table the proposal, so I don't know if you want to get it out and you can follow it along with us.
I mean, it's nothing amazing. We haven't reinvented the wheel by any means.
And it's still a work in progress. Like, we don't have all the answers, and that's why we're hoping that getting the community voice happening.
What's
the next one? Yeah, beautiful. So we actually need the community to be behind us, and that's, like, we can see by the numbers here tonight that people are interested in hearing what's next for Harcourt. So that's fantastic, and thank you to all those that are online also watching.
But if we're speaking to council, or we're speaking to government, or when I say we, this new group, it needs to have endorsement from the community. So it needs as many members as possible. And being a member doesn't necessarily mean you have to do anything, although we hope you will. But it does show that you're supporting this new association.
The membership is open and it's free, and it's inclusive for all organisations, groups and individuals. We also want to get our youth involved too, even though we don't have a lot of youth here tonight, and the demographic seems to be sort of a bit lopsided. We're hoping that we can get some sort of engagement with our youth, because, let's face it, that's the future of Harcourt. So, what will happen once we have unity and a community consensus that moving forward is the way to go? We'll then look at electing a committee. And that could look like at Strathewen, people put themselves forward for a nomination, or their organisation, comes up with a representative, and they'll run for a position. We don't know what those positions really look like, but it's, I suppose it's an expression of interest, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, and we've been thinking about somewhere between 7 and 9 probably elected members, and then a couple of positions that could be appointed. And the reason for that is because we want to make sure that we have all, or I keep saying we, I've got to stop saying that.
Us.
Us. The new committee has all the skills it needs. So if, for example, there was nobody elected to the committee who had any financial skills, it might be important that someone is appointed who has those skills. Or if, for example, the committee didn't have anyone who'd actually suffered a loss in the fire, it might be important to make sure that somebody joined the committee who had that experience. And there is actually scope for some paid positions on that committee to assist. So it's not all on the weight of the shoulders of the volunteers that have put their hands up to be part of the committee. So, and then we would become an incorporated body. So it's, so we've just, so the CRA, do we even talk about that name? So yeah, the proposal we've come up with, again, it's on your tables, is just to call it the Harcourt and District Community Recovery Association.
It's not formalised, it's just simple and it's inclusive. So the role of the group would be to listen to the community, to identify some of the ideas and concepts. You can go grab this one back, I'm sick of hearing my voice.
To support local initiatives and to get as much community participation as possible.
To attract the funding as a group, as a whole collective and collaboratively, and work out that's based on the community needs.
And very importantly, to advocate with a united voice, so government and council and anybody else is coming to one organisation. Enable local connection, so that is bringing all those groups together, because quite often we've got standalone groups that actually don't cross over paths. Yeah, and generally to look for different ways of supporting the community and community projects. That's the proposed purpose for the new association. It is quite long, but we also think it's really important that you cover a whole lot of aspects of the things that the new association would hopefully do. And you can see, importantly, we've put there that listen to the community is right up there at the top. Again, that's on your table if you want to have a look at it more. Next one. As I mentioned before, the members could be anyone who has an interest in Harcourt. They don't have to live and reside in Harcourt. We had lots of business owner operators that function from the cool room, and they don't actually reside in Harcourt, but they do have an interest in Harcourt. And also some of our neighbouring communities, like we certainly want to be inclusive of them coming over here. And we're also looking at engagement with the youth. If anyone is under 15, they would be required for their parent to sign on their behalf to have them come on board as a member. And you can see there that we're also proposing that this association only exists for 3 or maybe 4 years. So it's not trying to take over from HPA long term. It's got a very specific purpose, which is about community recovery from the fire. And then it finishes. That's it, job done.
And yeah, I think we've done that bit.
Yeah.
So why be a member? Well, why not? I think we've all got to get on board to make Harcourt great. And it's not just about sort of what's happened to us and improving on the infrastructure, the cool store, and to improve the neighbour's fence or anything like that. I think it's actually taking advantage of the situation that's been put in front of us and actually to improve it, to get ready for our future in Harcourt. I think that's about it, Beck.
You going to do it?
Oh, you can.
No, you do it.
I just said that this is about building a recovery that reflects the needs, strengths and the hopes of our community. So hopefully, let's get on board. And that's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Beck. Thanks, Donna. Okay, that, like I said before, that was a lot of information before. It's a lot more now. What we're going to do, we're going to pause for the next 5-10 minutes, get up, stretch, have a chat amongst yourselves about what you've heard. And I want you to really think about, are there any other questions that you have for what's being put forward that you really need to know to be able to get behind this? So what else do you need to know? What else is left hanging that is going to prevent you from supporting something like this? So we'll have a pause. We'll come back at 5:02. The thinking group members, if you could circulate, and if you've got any questions, grab one of them, grab Donna, hug her consensually and ask her questions. For those that are online, you can have a breather now, have a cup of tea, but you can also send through questions, and we've got someone that's keeping track of all those questions, so they won't go on unanswered. If you've got questions, post them on, and we'll make sure those are answered as well. So we'll come back in 10 minutes.
condos like massive.
I was going to track it worked well. I think just you're usually judging like the bill is line and everyone knows it's good. I work very well. I don't think there's much
Okay, we might come back together in a couple of minutes, so if you could find your seat again, and we'll get comfy for some questions. Okay, everyone, if you could find your seat again, please. We'll come back together in a moment. Okay, everyone, just in the interest of time, I'm just going to keep going. Sorry to bully you into listening to me again. We're just going to start. There's a few questions online, so I'll just start with one of those so that they know they're being listened to and they want to stick around, because you're all kind of hostages here, but online you can duck out of easily. Bryn, first question from online.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. How in practice will this group interface with other groups like Mount Alexander Shire Council, CFA, government, etc.?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And it has been talked a lot about in the thinking group. Who's going to edge towards? Rob?
Thanks. Hi, everybody. My name is Rob. I've been thinking as part of the group. It seems that the multi-agency working group doesn't have much community representation right now, and that's a problem. That's something we want to try and fix. And so the idea is that the new association that we're talking about tonight would have members who would vote for a committee, and those people would either themselves go and represent the community, or they'd have working groups which would focus on a particular area. There might be a working group that focuses on community reconnection. There might be a working group that focuses on environmental rebuilding and regrowth restoration. And those people who step in to be a member and step up to do something, get the chance to go out there and really push for what this community needs. But this is going to be an effort of volunteers with some paid support. We expect there'll be paid people who are helping to do all the paperwork and documentation and all the malarkey, but it is going to need people to step in and say, I want this to change, I'm going to step in and help apply for that, I'm going to help do this, I'm going to help do that. That's the vision we've had. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thanks, Rob. And the group is about being an umbrella for all those other groups and those different interests as well. So it's about pulling things together and trying to encourage as wide a membership as possible and representation from those different groups to piece it together, because it is a big jigsaw in this community. A question from the room. We've got Bryn here, who's got a mic, so if you could just wait until Bryn gets to you. Just stand back, John.
Hey, thank you. I just want to ask about what the alternatives are. Because if we as a community decided not to do this, is council ready and waiting with an action plan, or are there other real alternatives?
It's a really good question. Steve, I might get you to answer that because you've been through this a couple of times, and I reckon you'll have something to say on that. What is the alternative if a group like this isn't established? You just have to come up to the mic.
The alternatives to not forming a community association, the easy one is that council will do what it needs to do. They've got to spend money, they've got to organise things, it's their responsibility to deliver community recovery actions to affected communities. So that's not going to be a bad thing, but it won't necessarily represent what you need, and they'll struggle to engage with everyone, which is what a community group can do. There are other ways of doing this. You can have representatives from the main organisations and clubs in Harcourt, but that's a challenge because if you have the presidents and chairs of each organisation come together into a collective committee, then that takes them away from what their job is in their original organisation. So that's not necessarily a good outcome either. The other options I've seen is just self-appointed people stepping up and saying, well, where Harcourt was actually Kinglake. In Kinglake, a group of people who they actually ran towards the Premier's helicopter when it landed on the Oval, and for no good reason they became the recovery group or something like that, and that was terrible. In other places, it's just been people with experience, often senior firefighters or something like that, have taken over and led the recovery of a town, and that lasts about 12 months before they get run out of town, and it all falls apart. So options, there are many. At this stage, an incorporated association is a pretty good one.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, we'll have a question down the front.
I'm interested to ask Steve Pascoe if you targeted any particular skills around Strathewen, or if you drew on like the Kinglake community as well. Am I doing it right? Were you targeting particular skills when you formed your community resilience group in Strathewen?
We didn't target particular skills. We're a very small community, so after the fires there was probably 150 people living in Strathewen or outside Strathewen. We called for nominations. We had, I think, about 20-something nominations for a 12-person committee, and those nominations with a brief, an election form, they had to describe what their experience and skills were, and why they would be good people to be on a recovery committee. And then those election slips were put out to people. We actually ran it on Victorian Electoral Commission guidelines. Council ran the election for us, and our members, the members of our association, got to vote on who they thought would be good people to represent their interests. And it worked out really well. And people say, what if the wrong people get on the committee? And I go, everyone knows who the wrong people are. They don't get on a committee. They don't get voted. In Malakuta, a very similar process. Extraordinarily, their committee came out to be 6 women, 6 men, aged between 22 and 70. And it was so well balanced that people actually complained to the Victorian Electoral Commission that this was rigged. Because it couldn't happen like that. But it was just a fantastic example of how community knows what the right thing is. We didn't, but targeting special skills, there might be someone from a business community who needs to be on a committee, but that could be a nominated position, a special position. But that's for the community association to decide. Done? Thank you. Sorry? Oh, right. Yes. So when I was in Malakuta, they said, well, we're very different to Strathewen, and they're hugely different. But the same process still worked, and it still came up with good leadership. Extraordinary. It was a very, very divided community. Malakuta was a terrible place. The outcome has been that they are now a very much better community. All the old fights have disappeared, and they're very joined up and connected.
after disaster, and Steve actually speaks in that. And there's also the Malakuta, what's the name of the little show, the short, it's like a 7-series on... The Republic of Malakuta. Yes, thank you, Republic of Malakuta. And that's iView, if people want to watch and listen to that, to understand the whole association with the community-led.
And there's also Cabargo as well in New South Wales, and I think they've got a website if you want to check that out. And it goes back to the question of what's the alternative, and the risk is if you don't have a clear process, something that is trying to include as many people as possible, and that does have those formal processes, the risk is, you know, people are going to feel like some people's interests are being put ahead of others, and who decides that? So this is the fairest way that has been found in the experiences over the last 10 years or so. So that's why this is being put forward. But we'll put it out to some more questions, and just bear in mind, I'm going to ask you whether you support this in a little while as well. So please ask your questions. What do you need to know to get behind this?
I've just got one here.
Dave.
Oh,
sorry.
And I'm just going to repeat that in case it wasn't heard online because it wasn't on the microphone. So the recommendation was to listen to the podcast Democracy After Disaster. And what was the second recommendation? iView? The Republic of Malakuta on iView, thanks, yep. People's Republic of Malakuta, yep. Here and then here.
Thank you, Donna. I think that was, you answered part of what I was going to ask. I'm seeing the people here tonight, and that's a great number of people, but I'm wondering how everybody in this community can get information, because at the moment Harcourt Progress Association put out information, the council puts out information, the Corps puts out information, but it's amazing the people that don't know things that some people know and some people don't. So I'm not sure how many people are in the community and what percentage of people would be here tonight. Could be 10%, and if it is, I'm just guessing here, if it is, then is that fair to think that the people that aren't here are not interested, or we just want to make sure that everybody knows and gets a say? Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Bonnie. And I know getting information out has been a huge challenge, and it's been a source of frustration. It's been a huge pressure on HPA, and it's a struggle for everyone. I know there have been some discussions about how this group could potentially help support that. I think there's a lot more thinking to be done, but I'll just pass over to Beck to give you an update of where the thinking has got to.
Yeah, we're really conscious of the fact that we've got to try and engage with as many people in the community as possible. We've also been under a lot of pressure to come up with something quite quickly because of the fact that there are a number of organisations and council that are waiting for this group to be established or not established, as the case may be, but for that decision to be made. We did have, I don't know whether it was a week ago or a fortnight ago, quite a lot of the, what I might term community leaders, like the captain of the CFA and different people from different community groups came to a meeting at the CFA, so we could just give them a bit of an idea about the proposal and ask them to send it out. We've been communicating with them by email also ever since, so that, again, as much as possible, the message is getting out there. And hopefully, if the group does get established and we do get the funding for some paid roles, one of the jobs of the paid roles would be also really focusing on comms and getting involved with things like the school and the sporting group.
Great. There was just one more online question related to that, Beck, which was about if it is established, can you tell the community a bit more about how the community will be informed about the workings of the group if established?
So ideally what we would love from people tonight is to sign up to be a member today. That doesn't mean you have to do anything. You just sign one of those forms on the table. We'll have your email address, and then you will definitely get communications about it. In terms of the next step, the nominations, again, as we will try to, as broadly as possible, publicise the timings around that. And certainly everybody who's a member will be alerted to it.
Thanks, Beck. And I mean, I think we just need to reflect as well that everyone has been volunteers and everyone's doing the best they can, and it hasn't been perfect. It would have been better if it was earlier. It would have been better if it was included more people. Probably better if it's not on a Monday night after a long weekend. But everyone's just trying to do the best they can, put one foot in front of the other, and hopefully it's heading in the right direction. But it's incredibly important, and hopefully things can gradually build and grow and improve as they go along, as it becomes more structured. John.
Yeah, I have both a question from our table and a corresponding answer for it. So the question is the location of the office, where all the decisions are going to be made, etc., for this group. And one, I believe we can probably, just from a quick search around the table here, around the different members and stuff, HBA, the Harcourt Valley Community House, is offering to be available and with fully subsidised. So that has to yet go to a committee meeting, of course, but I'm pretty sure that will be supported.
I love a question and an answer contained in one. That's very helpful, so thank you, John. Yeah, John is on the thinking group. Just Andrew, and then Bryn just back over there next.
Yeah, it wasn't so much a question, more of just a bit of a comment about it all. Like, obviously, I've been in clubs, hobbies my whole life, been self-employed for 25 years. It is really hard to bring a group of people together to get a result, keep personalities out of it, whether it's work, whether it's club, whatever it is. If it's business related, in your small business, you've got so many things to satisfy and try and go home with some money in your own pocket. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that needs to be collected. I think what you guys are doing is absolutely amazing. I personally believe and see that it's going to be very successful for Harcourt. Yes, you can not vote for it, fall back to council. Then you've got the business model. They need to find funding. They need to make up a department. They need to organise people. That could take 12, 24 months before they can even put a desk in a room that someone can talk to someone. The community moves very fast. We saw that with a simple request to have a barbie at VMR, and all of a sudden there was so much love coming in that door. It was amazing. So I think what you guys are doing is magnificent, and it's going to be difficult, and there's going to be clashes, and there's going to be trouble, and there's going to be conflict, but at least you've got a group, and that's what they're doing. And that's what they're working on. And I think it's a really good idea. And shutting it down, get in, get it done, get out. It's a good model.
Thanks, Andrew. A nomination to chair the group. Thank you, Andrew.
My question's around, I think it's a brilliant idea as well, but I would like to know how the election process would happen to nominate, and then how people vote and how fast and what sort of time frame would you be looking at for all this to take place?
It's a fantastic question. My sense is there's not a guaranteed answer yet, and it's something that's going to have to be worked through in a few weeks, hopefully, if there's a new group that comes together. Beck's running forward, so that's great.
Yeah. I don't have a clear answer, but we have been thinking about it and the different ways you could do the election. We want it to be transparent. I think that's the most important thing. So there are, and we want to be able to reach as many people as possible. So it will probably be multifaceted. So you'll be able to vote like maybe in paper, but also online. And in different ways. And we also want the new committee established as quickly as possible, but we just have got a couple more things to do. So, I don't know, roughly speaking, like a month. That we hope, yep.
And Beck, one follow-up question. Oh, sorry, Ryan, did you want to answer that?
Howdy, my name's Ryan. It's on the Thinking Group. I think that question of how people are elected, how that works, how people are accountable is, I think, core to the whole endeavor, and it's a hard question to get right. And so we haven't quite nailed what our recommendation as a thinking group is yet, but we're also open to ideas. I think in this day and age, we have the ability to create organizations that are far more participatory, far more accountable than we ever have been. We have technology that lets members vote on different kinds of things that in the past we wouldn't have been able to do. So I think one of the important things we'll try to consider is what kind of decisions does a committee make on its own? How do you make this thing a machine for listening to the community? Like, it's really hard to listen and communicate. It's a lot of work. This thing, it's something that council tries hard to do, but it's also not set up to do on the time scale and with the sort of rhythm that this kind of an organization really needs for this kind of effort, right? We want it to listen wider, to talk wider, to decide faster than a lot of, and be transparent and accountable in a way that a lot of existing organizations cannot. That's the whole point of having a organization set up for this particular purpose and set up with a particular time frame, right? It only lives for 3 years, but it moves in quick cycles of listening, communicating, deciding, and involving community. So that's the hope. But again, we don't yet quite have all of the answers.
Good multitasking, Ryan. One more online question.
That essentially covered it. The question was, how will the group be accountable and to whom? And I think Ryan and Becca have essentially answered that.
Okay. But welcome follow-ups for those online. Any more questions from those in the room?
Sorry, Steve, I'm going to invite you back to the microphone. I was just wondering if you want to comment a bit on sunset clauses that you might have had with your organisations you were involved in, and how the transition from a CRA back to what you might call normalcy, how that worked, say at Malakuta or other places.
Yep. So in Strathewen, we realised that we had 4 or 5 other community organisations in Strathewen. We deliberately didn't take over their business. There was a hall committee, there was a school committee, all those sort of things. And we didn't want to be there forever. There was a few people said, we should become the Progress Association of Strathewen. There's not enough of us to progress, so it was a bit pointless. And we wanted to be specifically about the recovery of our community from a bushfire. And that doesn't go on forever. It does in people. So it took me kind of 7 to 10 years to stop being a fire person. But the actual recovery stuff is 3, 4, maybe 5 years. We deliberately set a sunset clause for Strathewen that was that the organisation would exist for 3 years, at which point, and the clause said, at which point the organisation could revisit its purposes. So it could change its purposes from being about bushfire recovery to being a Progress Association or something like that if it wanted. We chose 3 years. It took 4 years mainly to finish projects and spend money. It kept going into 5 years, which was probably 1 year too long, and it got to be a little bit more about ego and things than it was about good outcomes for community. Malakuta similarly had a 3-year sunset clause, and that's 5 years ago. And they've sort of shifted into a different, because it's been such an important thing to bring the community together, they didn't want to disband and simply leave a vacuum. So they've actually kept going and doing things largely bushfire related. For both us and Malakuta, in Malakuta they rang and said, 2 years on, after 2 years, we think we're finished, should we disband? And I just asked the question, is there still people without houses, still people living in caravans? Oh yeah, there's 20 or 30. And I said, well, are you finished? And I said, yeah, no, we're not finished. So it really has to be sufficient. How does it hand over? It hands over to normal business, which will be council and normal, the existing community organisations, is how it transitions back to normal, unless there's a real pressure to be something different.
So my question, sorry.
Hi, Bron.
Hi.
Yeah, go for it.
Did you want to respond to that before I ask mine?
No, I was just going to say it's a really good question, and I imagine it will look different community to community, and it's going to be based on need. It's going to be based on the other community groups and what the makeup of the community looks like, and that's why it'll be so important for this to include as many as possible to ensure that it is a smooth cooperation and then handover as well. Bron.
Yeah, just two parts to my question. The first one is, I would assume that it's a bit too early to be able to tell us what the kind of commitment might be from committee members. And I'll ask the second question at the same time, which is just, firstly, I'm really pleased to see a inclusion of young people in this, so that's fantastic to see. I guess the first part of the question also applies to that. What would the commitment be for young people? Obviously, it's quite a big ask for young people to ask them, especially if they're not quite sure what they're committing to.
Yeah, great question. There has been some conversations, particularly about the commitment. I think for younger people, I think that's still evolving a little bit, so there might not be an answer. Rob's coming forward. I just fill the space until someone steps forward. Good one, Rob.
Looks like I've been nominated to answer this one. We've been meeting twice a week for a couple of hours per meeting. I expect that people who step up to be on the committee of this new group would likely have, 4 or 5 hours a week of involvement in the initial part, because there is, as we've talked about, desire and demand for something to be available to give money to, give support to. And currently we don't really have that. And so there'd be more of a rapid build-up is what we have been thinking about. We've been going pretty fast. We expect the new group who steps up, and it's not forever. The committee gets elected every year, so you might only be stepping in for as long as you can. But the idea is that there's a substantial amount of thinking and doing. But again, there's someone who's paid to do the running around and the admin and the documentation. And that's not too unreasonable these days with the tools available. So, yeah, that's the expectation I would have in my mind when I'm thinking about whether I want to continue on this journey and put my hand up for the new thing. But yeah, that's the expectation. And I think the young people in this community, if they can see what's possible, what's been done before, then they will step in and step up. There's plenty of people who inhabit this location, who play sport, who'd love to get involved. But they need to know what's available, what's the outcome, why. So yeah, that's the answer. Everyone needs to say, yes, we want to do this, step in to be a member, then you get to vote for a committee, step up if you think you've got time to be a committee member and the passion. And there's some pretty amazing things that could happen. I mean, Malakuta's group, from what I've read on their website, they secured $50 million of funding. That's a whole lot of coin. I'm not saying that's what we'll get, but we're not talking about a couple of $100,000 here. And I think that people who want to see this place improved, they want to see the swimming pool available all year round. They want to see all sorts of improvements, the proper pub in town, whatever it is. This is a time to grab those things. Everyone has their passion project, and I think this is an opportunity to create that big wraparound where we could access quite a lot of support. Thanks.
Thanks, Rob. And the more members the group has as well, the more resources you're able to share, and the more tasks you can. The division of labour would be greater as well, I imagine, Steve. A couple of more questions. I just want to let people know we're coming up to 8:30. I'm happy, and I'm sure the thinking group are happy to stick around and keep answering questions because we want to make sure everyone's comfortable. But if you do have places to be, you're not obliged to stay. But we've got a couple more questions and then we'll see where we're at.
Hello. I'm from the Bowls Club. I'm just interested to know, how is this committee formed? For instance, if someone from our Bowls Club or the football club or the VMR are not on this committee, how do we get anything for our organisations?
Do you want to answer that, Beck? Or Steve? I think the answer is, the committee isn't the, it doesn't just stop with the committee. It doesn't become a closed-door decision-making body. If you're a member of the group, there would be a collaborative process to make sure that the different priorities are, or the different needs are being understood and that they're being prioritised as a community. So it wouldn't just be the committee making decisions behind a closed door. But Steve, do you want to add on to that?
As members, that's your job. Members, sorry? No. So there is an association of members, and the association of members, the members elect the people on the committee, and the committee does what the association asks. So it's up to members to keep the committee going in the right direction, to represent themselves into that, to ask questions, to demand answers, to ask for things. So, and it's not a closed shop. Its purpose is to serve the membership and to the community. If you've got something for the Bowls Club that you'd like to do, talk to the association or represent yourself into the association and say, this is a priority project for us. Can we get some help with this? It needs to be a recovery project, because that's the association is limited to recovery from the bushfire and to build community out of that. If you want to put in a new kitchen in the Bowls Club, that might get up, but it would depend on, it will sit somewhere on the priority list. The other thing I wanted to say about membership is the more members there are, the better this organisation works. You don't have to be a member. People who don't want to don't have to be. But the association is limited to membership. The members decide how it works.
Just wondering how you fund it.
Yeah. So the funding, it's an open question at the moment, but there are a lot of different avenues. So from council, from state government, from philanthropic organisations like FRRR in Bendigo that do a lot of work in this space. Steve, are there others?
There's money available, but it depends on how it's approached, how the association defines its priorities, and if it's a priority to have paid staff to help them, and it's a really, really good idea. It's one of the failures we didn't do in Strathewen. Having an admin support person just to do the day-to-day, couple of days a week would be fantastic. I've lost my track. I was trying to what there.
No, did you mean in terms of the functioning of the group, or in terms of the spending, or how to raise money to spend on recovery? Yeah. So
the question was about, and just for those who are online, the question was about funding for the setup, including membership.
I would imagine, my imagination, that council is holding funding for development of community, and I would imagine this would be a priority project to get this up and going. It's volunteer run, so good people will be giving their time voluntarily, but there are costs associated. And the association will be able to apply for grants, and there'll be grants all over the place. FRRR is a fantastic source of support. Council's a great supporter of logistics. The way I think of this is that the community association is the strategic thinkers, and councils and other organisations are the operational logistic people. This is what we need. How can you help us? And it's up to them to go out and find that, or advise you if they can.
And we had a thumbs up. You wouldn't have seen it online. We had a thumbs up from council. I won't. I'm sure there's formal processes to unlock that support, but in principle, this is absolutely something that should, speaking as someone not involved in council in any way, that you would think should fall under the funding that they have available. Okay, a couple more questions. Down the front as well.
Does the thinking group have recommendations about the formation of the committee, like how many people will be on it, using the model rules? Obviously, you've printed the proposed purposes, so that's part of the model that goes into rules. Or is that up to the new committee to give that? Because, I mean, you've got to elect a number of people. So chicken and egg, who decides that?
Yeah, it is chicken and egg, and you don't want the thinking group to dictate, this is how it should be done to a group that might not contain those members. But there absolutely has been some thinking. Beck?
Yeah, it is very chicken and egg, but if we're going to be an incorporated association, there's some fairly clear processes that we have to go through. So we do have to come up with a set of rules, and people have to vote that they accept those rules. But we are also quite interested in some alternative community governance models. So we're just getting a little bit of advice at the moment about the best way to go. Because, again, I'll reiterate, the most important thing for us is to be transparent and participatory. So whatever works best, and it might not be that it's like a chair and a secretary and 5 committee members. It might be something that looks a little bit different.
Just while they're getting that, we are starting with the model rules to begin with, and then looking at if there are any places that we can tweak those to be more participatory or more inclusive, or ways that we can better represent a wider range of community within that.
I don't know whether mine's a question as such, but so in the priorities, obviously there is people in our community that have, lost a lot in comparison to others and people that we don't know that may be struggling and whatnot. And while it's going to benefit them for our community as a whole to benefit, I just wondered whether those people are higher up the priorities list than, places that were infrastructure or groups that didn't necessarily have a loss that's affected, significantly.
Yes, I'm glad that question was asked. I think Ryan's going to come up. I mean, there's 2 parts of it. One is around the membership and who's going to be involved in those conversations, and making sure that there is space for the people that were most affected, particularly or potentially it might be reserving roles for those people to make sure that there is that that's centred in the conversations. And then it's up to the membership to decide on the prioritisation of the different needs. But Ryan, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, we don't have all the answers to that, but I think someone, maybe it was even you, had a great line when we had this community, we met some community leaders a few weeks ago, and someone in the room said, I thought it was very well put, that we don't want to be doing anything off the back of other people's loss without involving them in the say of what happens, right, and involving them in the vision of where we go. We lost a lot in the fire. And I think one of the hardest things in this whole process is when people do things on your behalf, right, without involving you in that. Because in the loss, one of the biggest losses is the loss of your goals and your plans and your sense of agency in life, like what you're going to do, right? And then so when people try to help you, but do it in a way that doesn't give you agency, even if they're well-meaning, they just compound the loss. And so this organization, however it works, absolutely needs to make sure that it is inclusive of the people who have lost a lot, and there have been many kinds of losses in this fire, and doesn't do exciting new things off the back of that loss, trading off that loss, without involving them and making sure things are better for them. So I think that's an important principle. How that is enacted is still something we're trying to figure out, right? And I think it's something that community as a whole will need to negotiate, but we need processes for doing that negotiation and for having those conversations. That's the goal of this group. So thanks.
one more question, and then maybe one last one if one emerges, but we'll try and move on.
Okay, I'm thinking from an environmental perspective, and so I'm trying to imagine how we would work with our environment, and so maybe this is an esoteric question, I'm not sure, but wouldn't we also, for example, need to collaborate with the Dja Dja Wurrung community on many occasions, or Dika, who are also already working on the mountain? So I'm sort of looking from that perspective, yeah.
Yes, I think absolutely is the answer as someone not on the thinking group. But both of those examples are two of the 30 plus agencies that was on that slide earlier. And the community group is kind of the connection, right? It's feeding interests and priorities up, and it's being a coordinator down into community as well. How it works in practice, Steve, where did you go? It is a big responsibility as well, because there are a lot of agencies and there are a lot of different people doing a lot of different things. So I'll let Steve speak to that.
Surely. There's kind of a standard way of doing strategic planning after disaster recovery. It's an Australian model, Australian national model. New Zealand adopted, made it better and gave it back to us. And it's based on 4 community environments, and they're community health and well-being environments, or pillars, some people call them. Social environment, natural environment, built environment, economic environment. And I would, if I'm helping the new committee, I will help them through that. Another way of cutting it within those, and they're not separate, they are actually linked together, you can't separate them out, but they're a good way of thinking about things. And then the other way of cutting it within those is urgent, short-term, medium-term and long-term. So urgent stuff is, what do we need now? People who are suffering right now, people who are living in caravans, people who something. Long-term projects about something about the cool store, rebuilding the cool store perhaps, is a long-term project. Establishing something new for the community would be a longer term. Shorter term, so the urgent is now, short term 6 months, medium term 2 years, long term ongoing.
Thanks, Steve. And that structure is already in place through the multi-agency recovery committee that council chairs. So all of those agencies are coming together at the moment, and that would provide sort of an entry point for this group to coordinate with those. Hold on, Michelle, just wait for the mic, just so everyone can hear.
So far, I think what we've been really excited to be waiting for this new association for is so that we do have a lot of community voice in those 4 work streams. So at the moment, the 4 work streams have got quite a lot of people from lots of different places, and we have had some representation through the beautiful Heidi and Ivan, who's come to a couple of the meetings to try and speak to the community. But the really reason we're passionate about this getting set up and very supportive of it and very happy to contribute to it is so we do have a lot more voice being fed into all of those different work streams, so we do what you actually need rather than what we thought you might need or what one person loudly said you needed. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. One last question.
Thank you. I'm just speaking on behalf of people who have actually lost their houses and are temporarily out of town or in places that they don't want to be, that it needs to be acknowledged that those people are very busy in their minds and in their practical sense trying to get things done, and maybe can't get to these sort of meetings or receive the information. They may not even have a computer to read stuff on. That it's important that they get the direct messages from this committee. Thanks.
Absolutely.
That's absolutely the case, and there's no one's job is to do that right now, right? And so I think that's the thing that's missing. That's the thing that this group would need to do, right? If you guys support it, is there's no one's job to make sure that all those people who are getting left out aren't left out. So that's what we would hope for, is that that's baked into what this would do.
Thank you. Okay, any other burning questions? I don't want you to go away tonight and feel like you didn't get your question answered. So I'm just going to pause for 10 more seconds. Yeah. It'd want to be a good question to be this late in the piece. Okay. We're a little bit late, but what I want to do now, and I've been warning you all night I'm going to do, I'm going to ask for a show of support. Are you happy and comfortable to support the proposal as has been put forward? This isn't going to be a formal vote. We're not counting you by the number, but it would just be good to have an indication. This group here in front of me, and hopefully online as well, if Bryn can work out the technology, do you support what's been put forward tonight? Can I see a show of hands? Okay. I'm all right. I'm not a lawyer, but that looked pretty good to me. Where are our slides? Okay. We did that. What's next? Okay. So just in the interest of time, maybe I'll speak to this quickly. You all have on your tables a membership form. If you are interested in continuing to be part of this conversation and continuing to help the community that you are represented, it would be incredible if you could fill out that form either tonight and just return it to the front, or take it back and return it to one of the thinking group members. For those online, Ryan, there's a link. There's a link available to sign up online as well. And it will be posted in the chat by Bryn.
It's in the slides that are available on the announcement. Yep.
Fantastic. We'll make sure we share that as well, as widely as we can. We'll try to get physical forms in the post office and places, and we'll share it through the social pages as well. The intention is, whoever signs up to be a member, there is a plan for there to be a meeting of those members in 2 weeks from now, if I'm not mistaken, the 22nd of June, which will be the first gathering of those members and the formative community recovery group. Location, TBC. Hopefully in here. I don't know if it's been asked yet. But we'll get those details out to everyone. So it is moving quite quickly. It's not a cut-off that if you don't make the first meeting, obviously there'll be chances throughout. It'll be an open membership process and a rolling membership. But that is the plan, to come together in 2 weeks, to keep the momentum going, keep in the back of our minds that there's a state election around the corner, so things are happening quite quickly on the political side. But that is what will happen next. So share what you have with those that you know, and Steve is going to say some last words as well.
And not just sign the paperwork, but take some paperwork to your neighbours. Get your friends and neighbours to sign up. It's an ongoing process. There's no cut-off for membership. And the more people that are involved, the better. And the other thing of membership is that it creates a mailing list. So if you're signed up as a member, you're guaranteed to get information as it's happening directly.
Thanks, Steve. All right, everyone, I can hear there's lots of chatter. Hopefully it's excited chatter. I'm gonna just say if we could just pause for one moment, because I do want to say a big thank you to you all for coming. It's a big ask on a Monday evening. I want to thank the Thinking Group members, and if you could give a round of applause for all of their hard work. Thank you to Steve for travelling to be here as well tonight. And hopefully we'll see as many of you as we can in a couple of weeks' time. So thank you, everyone.
And thank you, Dave, for herding the cats.